Hey, Daddy, this is the man of the champions, Bill Fonzie Alfonso, giving a shout out to something else. Something else, Daddy.
This is Nicole Matata, Great Warrior Wolf, and you are listening to Something Else.
I'm Tony Cini, and you're listening to Something Else.
Hey everybody, it's Rich Palladino, the voice of New England, and you are listening to Something Else with Arya.
And welcome to episode number 140 of Something Else. Feast your ear holes on this week's episode as we take a look at Mid-South Wrestling and World Class Championship Wrestling from November 12th, 1983. My name is Arya, and joining me, as always, is the Magnum TA to my Mr. Wrestling 2. It's Trae. Trae, how the hell you doing today?
Hey, I'm all right. It's been a week, like literally a week since I've been going and haven't been home, and I'm excited to. I'm not excited about the drive tomorrow, but I'm excited that I'm finally going to be home. I miss my bed. I miss my cats.
You didn't actually want to be home, did you? You know?
Well, that's where my kitties are.
I mean, that's as good a reason as any. Actually, that's probably the best reason of them all to actually want to go
Yeah.
home. So for that, I'll
Although
give you a free pass.
although there are very sweet pets here at my sister-in-law's house. There's a big fat orange tabby boy named Raj, who I call Ichiban Sweet Boy, and then there's a great big black dog named Charlie, who apparently her original owner was this like big asshole ex-military guy, so she is terrified of men. And so apparently, other than like my sister-in-law's husband and stepson, I'm like the only man she's ever been willing to like have anything to do with, and I think she likes me now.
Aw, that's sweet. So,
Yeah.
other than pets, how are things going on that end of the world?
It's about what's expected. We had to we came up last Monday, and then Thursday we had to leave and go to Dallas for a few days. So then we got up Sunday morning and came back here and had the memorial service, and then we just wanted to stay for a couple of days, make sure my sister-in-law's all right. And she's a very resilient person. But that's when it happens, you got to
Are you still there, Trey?
yeah, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
I can. I lost you after you saying when things like this happen,
Yeah, I'm sorry, my phone started ringing in it, but let me see if I can turn do not disturb on. But yeah,
stupid phone.
when something like this happens, you got to go through all of the stuff, and then now that everything's over, you gotta adjust to what the new normal is going to be in your life. So just hope that goes well for her. We'll be back, for Christmas. So just hope she manages.
That's good. Hey,
Yeah,
did
a
you know
lot. I
that of
know.
all? Mhm.
I was gonna. I know, like a lot of people, like don't like stereotypically don't like their sister-in-law. I love my sister-in-law. She's one of my favorite people.
That's nice. I became friends with my former sister-in-law when she divorced my brother. So
you know,
we
many years ago, when my wife and I met, we dated for a year, and then we broke up for a year before we got back together. And like the whole time we were broken up, I would still talk to my sister-in-law.
nice. Yeah, I mean, hey, it's good that you two have a good relationship, and I bet it makes, especially things like this, a little bit better for everybody.
Yeah, that's all I'm trying to do is trying to do what I can to ease somebody through a difficult situation.
Um, so did you know that of all the blood types, type O's have the most errors?
Did you know? I mean, I don't want to brag or anything, but every blood test I've ever taken, I got an A plus.
Good job. Good job. Oh, Lord. Did I tell you about my band 999 megabytes? We could never get a gig.
Did you know that the swimming pool on the Titanic is still full of water?
I've heard that before. Yes. Did you hear about the kidnapping? It's okay. He woke up.
Did you know there are more airplanes in the ocean than there are submarines in the sky?
I, I did not, I never thought about that, but you're true. You're correct.
Finally, just get all my jokes on the air at once.
So, are you going to TNA Genesis in January?
I doubt it. I could. I don't know. I doubt it, but maybe. I'm not completely against it. I'll think about it. I'm hoping I have informed my wife that with the pre-sale starting on December 2nd and the general on sale on December 9th, that all I want for Christmas is all-in tickets.
Good luck with that. Hopefully, you're able to get
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Um, but by the way, the reason why I brought up Genesis is because I got an email from TNA about it today, and tickets for the pay-per-view in Dallas and both shows in San Antonio go on sale November 15th, starting at 6 p.m. local time. Um, and the Genesis pay-per-view will feature the popular Power Slam front row seats, featuring the best perk package in TNA wrestling history. Actually,
Oh
in is
wow.
lowercase font and everything else is uppercase. So it's best perk package in TNA wrestling history.
Now,
Starting not,
do you get wings served to you at ringside by Hooters girls?
not quite, but you do get a pizza party with the Hardys and Nick Nemeth on Saturday at 4 p.m., hosted by Gia Miller. Then a first in line fast pass option for the Hardys meet and greet on Saturday. A Texas BBQ&A meal and chalk talk session with Joe Hendry, Jordan Grace, Mike Santana, and others on Sunday. A high quality travel backpack emblazoned with the TNA logo. A high quality stainless steel tumbler emblazoned with the TNA logo. First fans admitted into the venue on Sunday for the Impact tapings, and commemorative take-home chairs available moments after the pay-per-view ends for $599 and is likely to sell out immediately.
Look, so that show is at the Curtis Colwell Center in Garland, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, I have been there a few times for AEW and for New Japan. It's a very nice building, very easy to get in and out of. And if you're coming in from out of town, listener, if you're coming in from out of town to go to Genesis, there is a True by Hilton right across the street that I always stay at that is very nice.
Are they paying us anything for that plug?
They are not. I just really want people to have a good hotel experience. Oh my God, the fucking the convention that we were at this past weekend. Okay, I have stayed at hotels that were like nastier and more unpleasant, like in terms of look or smell or cleanliness.
Mhm.
That was the most incompetently staffed hotel I have ever stayed at.
Interesting. You told me this, but what made it incompetently staffed?
Okay, so they knew months in advance. We did not spring a 200 person convention on them at the last minute. Okay, they knew months in advance that we were coming and made no effort to have like things appropriately staffed. Okay, we get there, there's like no, just the luggage carts are disappearing and being left in hallways and rooms. They're not sending anybody to collect them. There's nobody there to like help anyone do anything. It's so like difficult to get any kind of answers to questions. You get like you ask one person, one employee how to like ask one employee about the parking and they tell you one thing. So then you go to do what they told you and you get another employee and they tell you a completely different thing. Right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. My fucking bed broke on the first night and we called, okay, that I know of. I know my wife called 3 times and went down there twice to ask for maintenance to fix the bed or do something or replace it or move us rooms or something. Never. We were there for 2 whole days after that. Never heard from maintenance about the fucking bed that was broken. My wife ended up, we had a double room. So my wife and I always get a double room because we're just not good co-sleepers. And so she
Mhm.
ended up having to go, she went to bunk with a friend who had a double room so I could sleep in the one remaining bed because they wouldn't come and fix my fucking bed. And then it was just, Uh, like they knew that they were supposed to have our meeting space open for us at 8 a.m. And then like we get down there and it's just locked. And they're like, yeah, we're not gonna open it till 9. And like, well, our shit starts at 9. We have to get in there to do like audio and shit. And it was just the whole time we were there, one thing after another, everybody I talked to was having problems. Just a fucking shit show. I just could not believe it's like you have to try to be that incompetent.
All right, so good to know not to go to this hotel for anything. What hotel is that?
The Crown Plaza, downtown Dallas.
All right, here I thought the DFW Airport Hotel and Conference Center outside of Dallas at the airport, obviously, was a really shitty hotel.
Yeah, no shortage of shitty hotels in the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex, which is why I'm telling our listener that if you happen to be coming into town for Genesis, the True by Hilton, right across the street from the Curtis Colwell Center, will treat you right.
Sounds good. Where were you when I went to Dallas for Mania 32 and I stayed at the DFW Airport Hotel and Conference Center? That place
I
sucked.
I had a friend who used to live in Arlington that was actually very near AT&T Stadium that I used to stay with when I would go to Dallas for wrestling shows.
Oh, Lord. Well, let's go to Mid-South Wrestling. Now, the opening of this week's show was a little wacky because instead of the usual graphics, they showed the end of the Junkyard Dog Butch Reed match from 2 weeks ago, where Junkyard Dog won the North American title. Did you think that there was a
Yes, they did.
problem with your tape when that played?
No, I just thought that it was a weird thing that they decided to do this week.
There was like one episode last year that like the show started with Boyd Pierce introducing the show before the theme song. Then they did the theme, then they came back for the proper introduction. And it was like so weirdly random. So
We have to
every so
fill
often they'll do
20
something
extra.
just
We have to fill
Mhm.
20 extra seconds of airtime. Boyd, get out there.
well, let's go to this week's intro. By the way, remember last week when we were told that this week would be Buddy Nichols from KABL
Yeah.
TV in Alexandria, Louisiana? Well,
Oh, you bet I
let's
remember
go to
that.
this week's intro with Boyd Pierce and Bill Watts, who neither our buddy Nichols.
There you just viewed what happened 2 weeks ago here on Mid-South Wrestling. You saw his hand raised. That signifies officially and sanctioned that he is the new North American heavyweight champion, the Junkyard Dog. This week we have a lot of exciting action coming up. Battle of the Powerhouse Grapplers from Minnesota, Crusher Darsow as he takes on Russian Nikolai Volkov. Popular Mr. Wrestling 2 returns on this week's card, and you'll see a rugged team, the Road Warriors. It all adds up to a lot of excitement. The men to tell you about it, our guest commentator, Cowboy Bill Watts.
Well, like you said, you just saw Junkyard Dog regaining the North American title. The title he lost July 16th, 1983 in a 2 out of 3 fall, no disqualification match in the Superdome when Mad Dog Buzz Sawyer and King Kong Bundy helped take the toll, and Butch Reed won the title. And that's heating up, and it looks like something's got to give, because last week here, Hacksaw Butch Reed, with an unprovoked attack on an already injured man, King Cobra, had been defeated by Nikolai Volkov. We'd gone to a commercial break, and this is what had happened.
All right. So this week, the popular Mr. Wrestling 2 is back. I thought we got rid of him when you showed up on this show.
No, he was around for quite a bit after I started.
Oh.
But
I
don't know.
I like to give you credit for anything that had nothing to do with you, and
Yeah.
I figured Mr. Wrestling 2 getting the boot was all about you.
If Wrestling 2 hadn't been around, we wouldn't have Larry Labisco at the Omni in Atlanta.
Very, very true. I guess he was around for a
But
while. He really
yeah,
wasn't gone that long, I guess.
I
Uh,
I knew he was
but
coming back around this time because I knew that this program with TA was coming.
yeah. We're also this week gonna have Crusher Darsow versus Nikolai Volkov, and also the Rugged Road Warriors are going to be here this week. So wow,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was a
Not to be confused
surprise.
with the Road Warriors who were here like 3 months ago and tried to help Ted DiBiase in his feud with Hacksaw Dugan.
I definitely did confuse them.
Yes. Watts also recapped, as you heard, Reed painting King Cobra last week. We went to the replay of it, and then we were informed that Butch Reed was fined $500 for painting King Cobra. And I have a serious question to ask. Who got the money? Did King Cobra get given the $500 for Butch Reed painting him?
It went to Grizzly Smith, and I'm sure he didn't use it for anything nefarious. Keeping that $500 in his own pocket instead of putting it into the coffers of Mid-South Sports has to be the worst thing Grizzly Smith has ever done.
This week, anyway.
By the way,
So,
I have mentioned on my software that I use to take notes that I can pull block references forward from previous notes, and my note on this still says "Bitch Steed" painted a yellow streak down King Cobra's back.
good old pitch speed. Um, then they showed us a Junkyard Dog music video, and this was fucking weird. So they started by showing the video we saw a few months ago where Dog visited a burn victim, and then segued into wrestling clips. And what made it weird was they didn't use like they used fake crowd noise. Like they didn't use the real crowd noise because you could see the crowd losing their shit for Junkyard Dog in the background. And instead they had to pipe in for some reason fake crowd noise. And it was really noticeable because like you'd see all these people bumping all over the place and there'd be no noise made. But you just hear that dull, constant cheer that people would mock WWF TV for in the next few years.
Yeah, you're right. My only takeaway from this music video was I kind of want to see that Dog and Nick Bockwinkel match from Houston, just from the clips I saw. Like, that's probably the best match of Dog's career.
Oh, I'm pretty sure we saw it on the show. Maybe you didn't, but I'm pretty sure I saw it on
Oh,
the show.
I will have
Yeah.
to go back into the archives and look for that.
To the Wayback Machine, Mr. Peabody. Um, we come back here and we're going to get a promo by our tag team champions, Butch Reed and Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
Hacksaw Reed was upset about the $500 fine for what he did to King Cobra when he was unable to defend himself. And Jim Ross interviewed him earlier. Let's listen to that.
Last week, right here on Mid-South Wrestling, for no apparent reason, Hacksaw Butch Reed with an unprovoked attack during a commercial break on King Cobra. Not only did you humiliate and degrade the man, you painted a yellow streak down his back. For your actions, Mid-South Wrestling has fined you $500. And I know at this point in time you have some words to say regarding that incident.
I ain't out here to talk about King Cobra. King Cobra got just what he deserved, you understand? Because he ain't nothing but a junkyard dog stooge. What I'm out here talking about is slander against my person. You understand? The junkyard dog run around here signifying about I got a little old puppy dog leading him around on a chain and painted a yellow streak up and down his back. Well, let me make one thing clear. Butch Reed is not cruel to animals, you understand? I do not go around abusing dumb animals, you understand? There's only one dog that I want to paint and lead around on a chain, and that's that greasy junkyard dog. Do you understand that?
I understand, but what's in this box? What's in this box?
Show him what's in the box, brother. I'm going to show you just to prove to all you people what's in that box. Let him out of there. That dog is not abused in any kind of way at all. Do you see him? Look at him. He's half scared now. He's just like a junkyard dog.
This dog feels wet.
Carrying dog.
Dog feels.
He's a little scared dog. I'm his master. You understand? I'm that dog's master, and that's the way I'm going to have the junkyard dog. He's going to be my master, licking my hands and licking my boots. And dog, then I'm going to put this chain on you and lead you around with a yellow streak up and down your back, sucker. There you go.
The comment that interested me the most was Jim Ross said that dog looks like it's wet. You wonder if Hacksaw Reed and Neidhart hadn't scrubbed it off right before it got here and maybe gotten rid of the evidence. Anyway, let's go to the ring and Reeser Bound for the next bout.
Okay, so they'll bring this up a couple times during this show, that the dog was a little wet and that Butch Reed may have given it a bath to scrub off any evidence. Are we supposed to believe that, like, Butch Reed painted the dog yellow, and then because he had to come out and do a promo on TV with the dog, he gave it a bath?
I was so baffled by that because I'm like, what the fuck are they? What are they suggesting that, like, what evidence could you scrub off the dog? And then when I was listening to that, I'm like, I caught the bit about the painting, and then it somehow makes even less sense because the implication is that just for the hell of it, Bitch Steed painted a dog and then decided to wash the dog and bring it out on TV as proof that he doesn't abuse animals. Like, what the fuck was this?
And they brought it out in a stereo box. Like, it was so completely random that it's like Neidhart's holding this giant stereo box, and it's like, okay, I wonder what's going to be in the box. And it's like a little puppy dog. And it's like, oh, that's nice. The heels have their own little puppy dog that they bring around to the shows with them. Remember when Torrie Wilson used to carry a poodle to the ring in her purse? Actually, it wasn't even in a purse. She just carried it to the ring.
I do not remember Torrie Wilson with the poodle. I remember Rene Dupree with a French poodle.
Maybe it wasn't a poodle, but it was a little froofy dog that she'd carry with her.
Oh my God! I saw something this past weekend that I had heard of but never actually seen. Usually, most of the time when you see a guide dog, like what you would call a seeing eye dog, but seeing eye is actually like a brand, a guide dog. Usually, it's a lab, like a chocolate, a black lab or a yellow lab. But I have heard that they use poodles as guide dogs, and I had never actually seen it until I was at a blindness convention this past weekend. I actually saw a poodle guide dog.
Interesting.
Yeah.
By the way, I should point out this is the only time in wrestling history someone has compared Butch Reed to Torrie Wilson.
That's what that's the extra special service that we offer here on the Something Else podcast.
The one and only service we offer. So then we go to the ring for our first match. Tag team champions Butch Reed and Jim Neidhart versus Randy Barber and George Weingroff's penis. Now, research did clarify this was a non-title match. Luckily so, because as you know, no one beats George Weingroff's penis.
You know,
Uh,
if Butch Reed tried to paint a yellow streak up George Weingroff's penis, he'd have run out of paint.
there's not enough paint in the world to cover
Absolutely
George
not.
Weingroff's penis.
That's
So one,
absolutely my only note about this match.
so if, uh, so if George Weingroff's partner cut people's hair and then had sex with them, would that make him a Randy Barber?
I think you've made that joke before.
I'm sure I have. Um, anyway, he had the Arn Anderson haircut, except for a few wisps of hair in the front of his head, which made me think of Tyson Kidd's old shitty haircut. Remember when he had like the Tyson Kidd had those little strands of hair sticking up the front of his head, and the rest of his head was bald?
Yes. Awful.
Yes. Well, Neidhart beat Barber with a Samoan drop because again, no one beats George Weingroff.
Absolutely not.
Geopolitical Bill Watts was up next, and he talked about how Nikolai Volkov sends half of his money home to buy Russian war bonds in order to keep peace in the world, which was then followed by a recap of Nikolai attacking Dusty with a bag of wheat last week.
Yes. It's hilarious.
Do, do you think he believes everything he says?
What? Everything he says about the Soviet Union? Absolutely. He believes that with all of his heart.
I mean, about Russia buying Russian war bonds in order to keep the peace.
Oh, that I don't know. That just may have been him saying something. I
Uh,
do
so,
not
so he, Mhm.
I do not believe that Bill Watts, the man, actually believes that Nikolai Volkov from Yugoslavia is buying Soviet war bonds with his Mid South Wrestling money.
Well, to be fair, he's not buying them. He's sending the money to Russia so they could buy them.
Oh, well, who's buying them though? That's not how
I
war
don't know.
bonds work.
Maybe Russia is like with churches, how churches require you to give 10% of your money for tithes and offerings. Maybe Russia in 1983 demanded 50% of your income.
I uh I bet those war bonds were never redeemable. I bet the Russian Federation did not honor the Soviet Union's war bonds.
God damn it. Poor Nikolai Volkov, wasting almost all of his money.
Hey,
But
was that the reason? Was that the reason that he had to work for Ted DiBiase and wear a cent sign on his tights like 10 years later? He lost all of his money due to the collapse of the Soviet Union.
that makes so much sense.
Yeah, look at us. We unravel mysteries here.
And hey, Nikolai Volkov was part of the main event of WrestleMania 11. You know,
Was he?
but
Yeah. Was he one of? Yeah, you're right.
he he was, well, I guess they weren't lumberjacks, but he was one of the $1 million team with Kama and IRS and Tatanka and all these other people who were technically a part of the main event of WrestleMania, including Steve Mongo McMichael. You know, WrestleMania main event.
Hey, Volkov was the first person ever to win a championship at WrestleMania. Him and the Iron Sheik.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Do you remember like a decade or 15 years ago at this point, actually, WWE put out a best of tag teams DVD, and it was a fun DVD, except at one point there's like 5 matches in a row that all had the same finish with a heel manager throwing in a foreign object to help their team win.
As was the fashion at the time.
Yes. So the Russian Jargonaut, Nikolai Volkov versus Crusher Darsow. We haven't seen Darsow with his baggy Daisy Dukes and his rope belt in a little while. I feel like it's been like a month.
Yeah,
Um,
he was not on the last taping, but was he not on the taping before that either?
I mean, he may have been, but
Hmm.
either way, you're still looking at 3 weeks, you know, since we've seen him
Yeah,
at least.
which is an eternity in TV time.
Indeed.
So
So Volkov demanded the playing of the Russian national anthem, and I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but this may have been the first time he's ever done that on TV. Like not just Mid-South TV, but any TV.
yeah, as far as I know, it would be, and it is one of my favorite stories was Volkov trying to do this bit for Heat in Japan, but the Japanese being Japanese just sat politely.
That's tremendous.
Yes.
But actually, like I don't know if you noticed, but there was a fan in a Mr. Wrestling 2 mask who actually stood up at first, but then sat back down because they saw everyone else sitting down.
That poor guy, just trying to show respect to a man's heritage.
I mean, hey, if they played the American national anthem and Volkov didn't stand for it, we'd get all up in arms about that. You know we would. So Darso hoisted Volkov up with a bear hug as Volkov came off the ropes. And I know Volkov isn't as big as he'd become, but that was still pretty cool, I thought.
I
Um,
have heard tell of certain kinds of videos that depict big bears hugging each other, but I didn't expect to see it on Mid South Wrestling.
so geopolitical Bill Watts then complained about how the Russians are being brainwashed into believing the US is after all the oil. Um, so because that's certainly not a thing. And how the US invaded Grenada. Now, Trey, you're our history buff. Do you have anything you want to say about the US invading Grenada?
I never really studied much of anything after about. Uh, I didn't do a whole lot after the end of World War II, so I don't really know anything about the '80s, other like you know Reaganism and ruining the fucking world for decades to come. But yeah, I don't specifically know anything about the U.S. invasion of Grenada.
That's right. So Volkov reversed the bear hug and held Darso in position for America's Most Wanted's death sentence. But sadly, neither Chris Harris nor James Storm showed up to come off the top rope with a leg drop, and instead Volkov won with the sack of wheat backbreaker and a 4 count.
It's so bizarre to me that Volkov is actually kind of entertaining to watch here because I had only ever seen him in like the WWF in the late '80s and early '90s when he was the shits. So
Yes.
it's strange to see him kind of young and nimble and I don't know, like not great, but
Yeah.
For an undercard territory heel, he's pretty decent. But yeah,
You,
no,
you,
Barry Darso has now
hmm?
lost twice, once to Dog and once to Volkov. But I'm sure that losing to a communist isn't going to cause a huge personality change or anything.
No, not at all. Why would it?
No.
Um, and by the way, I do want to reiterate it was in fact a 4 count that this referee made instead of a 3 count. Oh, and I was going to say, speaking of, people who you don't expect to not necessarily not be any good, but be entertaining, you should have been here last year when Iron Mike Sharp was on for like 6 months, getting a push.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Um, After that, we have the number one rated tag team, the national tag team champions, quote unquote, the Road Warriors versus Mike Bond and Art Cruz. Just remember, the Road Warriors are not the real names of the Road Warriors. Now, we saw Hawk and Animal, as we mentioned, back in September, and they were going full biker mode. And it was not the Road Warriors, of course, we'd all know and love. And it's still not the Road Warriors we know and love, but we're moving in that direction as they're still doing a half-assed biker gimmick, but they're now painting their faces too. And In addition to their black tights, they're also still wearing assless chaps.
Yeah, they're slowly transitioning into the Road Warriors.
Yes. I just laughed at their assless chaps started like 4 or 5 inches below the top of their tights. Um,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Animal pin Bond with a clothesline. The match only went 2 or 3 minutes, but you could have easily watched 3 or 4 Road Warriors TBS squash matches during that time frame.
Yeah, it's just a classic Road Warriors ass whipping.
Yes. So we mentioned Mr. Wrestling 2 has been gone for a little while, and we also mentioned, well, Trae spilled it for us that there's a program that's starting. Um, and in fact, it's starting right now. So let's go to a pre-tape with Reeser Bowden, and I want you to take a drink every time someone says the word specialization.
Well, boy, today is the day of specialization. I think there's been an exciting new concept in professional wrestling. And Reeser Bowden was talking to Magnum TA and Mr. Wrestling 2, and let's join that interview.
As you know, we live in a world of specialization. In the field of medicine, I think we'll all agree that specialization has contributed greatly to the advancement of medical science. In the world of professional sports, this is also true. In football, we have specialists in defensive play. We have specialists in kicking. In golf and tennis, all of these great professional athletes, no matter how great they become, even in the world of professional boxing, Muhammad Ali always had a coach, as do all professional sportsmen. They have coaches all the way down the line because no man ever knows all there is to know. Until now, this innovation has never been conceived in the world of professional wrestling. But now it has. Mr. Wrestling 2 has for some time had his eye on Magnum TA. As you know, Mr. Wrestling 2 has a great deal of experience in professional wrestling, and he has decided that it might be good for him to act as a coach to Magnum TA, not as a manager, but a coach.
Well, you've got it right, Reeser. I've spent almost my entire life in wrestling, in athletics all the way around. And I've been watching Magnum TA for some time. I've checked on his background. He was an all-state champion in wrestling. He was track and field. He was track star, shot put. He's gone through a lot. And to do this, you've got to have a lot of heart, determination, drive, whatever you want to call it. It takes a lot for a young man to push himself to those outer limits. Well, I've taken it upon myself. He and I have sat down, we've talked, discussed this, came to a financial agreement, which we won't get into, and I'm going to pass on the knowledge that I have gained over the years to a young man that I feel is going to reach the height of professional wrestling. That doesn't mean that I'm going to quit wrestling. That doesn't mean it's going to interfere with my personal wrestling field. But what it does mean is that I intend to make this man perhaps the finest, the greatest wrestler, I hope, in the wrestling career of that the wrestlers I've ever seen.
Well, that indeed is a great idea, and Magnum TA certainly has the stuff to do it with.
You know, Reeser, I got to thinking, when I made my greatest gains, when I made my greatest athletic progress, was at the hands of some of the greatest coaches in the country. This is when I was in the amateur field. And as I've made this climb to the professional level, I've left the coaches behind. I've had no one to get the advice from. Now I have a man with 25 years of experience who I respect greatly, and I hope can help me to reach the heights that I wish to attain.
I know there's one question that the fans would like to know. Do you intend to teach this man your famous knee lift?
You have to learn to walk before you jump.
All right. So, Trae, do you know that today is the day of specialization?
Yeah. If I have to hop off the podcast to go pee, it's because I took a drink of Sprite Zero every time they said specialization.
We went to a pre-tape with Reeser, who said specialization about a dozen times in 10 seconds. And this discussion about specialization led to a discussion about coaches. And he tells us that Mr. Wrestling 2 has had his eye on Magnum TA, and we zoom out to see 2 in a very ill-fitting coat. This coat was both too big and too small for him. Where did he find this coat?
As an oddly shaped man, I sympathize.
And what made this whole thing even better is like they're not like standing like typically when they do these promos, they're standing in front of the Mid-South Wrestling backdrop or they're at ringside or whatever. Like Reese's just sitting at a table with his legs crossed, and we slowly zoom out to see Mr. Wrestling 2 sitting there with him. Like, oh, okay, here's Mr. Wrestling 2 sitting at a table with Reeser while his legs are crossed. And so Mr. Wrestling 2 apparently doxed Magnum TA, which is, by the way, not the last time we'll say someone got doxed on this show this week. And he decided that TA is a quality man. So Mr. Wrestling 2 is going to coach Magnum TA, but not manage him. He's going to be his coach. He reiterated that he's not retiring. He's still going to wrestle. He just wants to make Magnum TA the best wrestler possible. And so we were zoomed in on Reeser Bowden with his legs crossed and Mr. Wrestling 2. And we zoom out even further where Magnum TA, what the hell is with the fashion on this show? Magnum TA is wearing a light brown leather jacket with a matching light brown vest. I was so distracted, I could barely pay attention to what the hell TA said. And then 2 basically said TA wasn't experienced enough to learn the knee lift.
You know, it was the 80s. It was a very weird time. Look, there was bad hair, bad movies, bad music, bad wrestling, and that was just Hulk Hogan.
You're not a fan of the Hulk Hogan hairstyle?
Is it really a style or is it just a circumstance?
It could be both.
I'd feel worse if I knew he did that on purpose.
Oh, Lord. So any thoughts about this fantastic pairing we got here with Mr. Wrestling 2 and Magnum TA?
So yeah, I'm sorry I ruined it by mentioning that. Yeah, this is leading into a very significant program, and yeah, Watts was so excited about the prospect of a coach in pro wrestling.
Oh, Lord. I'm sure it'll give him a chance to list every amateur wrestling coach he knows.
Oh man,
Imagine if Mr. Wrestling 2 took on Nikolai Volkov. They'd have to go the whole 60 minutes just so Watts could get everything out.
you think he'd look up some Russian amateur wrestling coaches just to mention?
Uh, oh, Lord. So then we get the return of Mr. Wrestling 2 versus Paul Garner. I should note that since he disappeared from the show in August, 2 has been wrestling in Georgia. Um, I gotta play this audio clip of something that they said that Magnum TA has been chosen to do.
Oh God!
And it was,
you know that Grizzly Smith set this up.
I'm shocked Grizzly Smith didn't set it up for himself.
That's what I was gonna say too.
Oh God, let's play the clip, even though at this point I think we could all figure out it's something to do with pedophilia.
Their yearbook editor, Lindy Ebaugh, has written Mid-South and Jack Curtis and saying that they're asking Magnum TA for his cooperation, help to select their Wildcat Queen and 3 finalists for their yearbook out of 11 senior girls. I think it's a great honor. Magnum's excited about it. You know, when the fans out there in television land start wanting to see.
All right, so Magnum TA is really excited about the prospect of picking out the hottest high school girls for a contest.
Grizzly Smith must have had a prior engagement that week, and it just broke his heart. Or no, maybe high school was a little too old for him.
I was gonna say, I mean, high school girls, you're closing in on adults at this point.
Okay,
That's a bit too much for him.
this is public knowledge. It's been mentioned in different documentaries, but I'm just gonna say Jake Roberts' mother was 13 years old when he was born.
Yes, indeed she was.
Hmm.
By the way, whatchamacallit, ignore the background noise just then. But Mr. Wrestling 2 won with the knee lift.
Surprise, surprise.
Then we get Jeff Sword versus the perpetual Alabama junior heavyweight champion Mike Jackson. At this point, Watts starts naming the crippled children in the audience, and I'm figuring this was the expiration of time match, but it wasn't. Jeff Sword won with a neck breaker and a 4 count.
Mike Jackson, I believe, was the best wrestler on this show.
Oh, I don't even think it's close.
Wrong guy won. Look,
Yeah.
Bill Watts, if you're listening to this on your temporal ham radio back in 1983, I would like Mike Jackson versus Jerry Oates, please, and thank you.
And we write for the Wrestling Observer newsletter because, according to Mick Foley, you would make changes based on things you read in the Observer.
Yeah, there you go.
If it helps, I really do occasionally write for the Observer. So, I mean, it's not a lie.
I've sent stuff in before.
Yeah. Hey, Dave retweeted you this week with no
He did.
provocation.
Yeah, I get retweeted by Dave once or twice a week, and I'm always a little bit terrified because sometimes it doesn't go up. Not because of Dave, because of the people who respond to Dave's tweets. But yeah, I was very proud last week. He said that my post was the best post of the day.
I hope that's high praise because, I mean, I see some of the shit he gets tweeted, and it's not, it's not usually high praise for him to say that. Well,
Yeah.
since Jeff Sword and Mike Jackson couldn't go the time limit, Tony Torres and John King did. And this, oh, by the way, before that, we get told that next week, Mr. Wrestling 2 and Magnum TA will be a team. We're going to get a special montage of Jim Duggan and Nikolai Volkov in a special handicap match. I always like when they do handicap matches because I haven't watched next week's show yet, but usually Reeser will explain it in a way where even the dumbest person on the planet could understand it.
Funny enough.
What was that?
I wasn't going to bother to explain it, but the tweet that I had mentioned that Dave retweeted was when I said watching professional wrestling is an activity that was designed so the absolute stupidest person could easily understand it, and somehow some people still manage to be bad at it.
Mm-hmm. You're not lying.
Oh, I know.
But by the way, we mentioned earlier on this episode that this week we're supposed to have Buddy Nichols from KABL TV in Alexandria, Louisiana, and we didn't get him this week. So you might be wondering where the hell he is. Well, during this match, and I want you to remember, they tape 2 episodes at a time, and this is the first episode that they're taping. Boyd Pearson informs us that because of how cold it is, he's going to go pheasant hunting during next week's show, and he starts name dropping everyone he's going with. I'm like, when the hell did he become Bill Watts, where he just name drops every civilian he's ever come across in his life? And the announcers next week are going to be Jim Ross and Buddy Nichols.
Okay,
and,
what a fucking dream team. Cannot wait. But I have to say to Boyd Pierce, he's not just going pheasant hunting. He is going pheasant hunting in Nebraska. I as a former longtime resident of that region, I grew up, maybe 150 miles from Shreveport. I can guarantee that it is colder in Nebraska than it is in northern Louisiana.
I can almost guarantee that. I mean, I've never lived in either state, but that seems geographically correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, just
Anywho,
for everyone who needs to write this down, Tony Torres and John King went to the expiration of time limit draw.
in 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
Just long enough to hear about pheasant hunting. And yeah.
Well, yeah,
So
got to hear about pheasant
mhm,
hunting. Got to hear about pheasant hunting.
we did. So we
And
meander out west for World Class Championship Wrestling. And where did you watch this on Peacock or where did you watch it?
um, I watched a rip of the Peacock version on my downloaded from my media server onto my iPad since I'm away from home.
So I mean, I guess we're just not watching the same guy's YouTube clips because I mean, I'm watching this guy on YouTube who rips him right off Peacock and puts him up here, and I only have a 34-minute show and it's missing the entire main event. And you told me you
Huh.
saw the entire main event.
Yeah. Weird.
Weird. Apparently, we were protesting this week's Von Erich's Freebirds match.
That's a shame, really. This was interesting. It was something. I had some thoughts on it, so I guess I'll take the lead on that one.
Let's say, I hope you take the whole damn thing because the only thing I saw was Fritz was talking, and then all of a sudden Bill Mercer was standing with Kerry and Kevin while Kerry was bleeding, and he yells, "We don't have time. We'll see you next week."
Oh, so it didn't just cut off, it like cut out 10 minutes
Yes,
because they played the last minute or so. That's wacky.
I know, right?
M-
Well, let's go to the
Maybe
intro. Mhm.
because it's YouTube, maybe he had like a copyright thing and had to just cut out that part for some weird reason.
Maybe who knows? It's a random part to be cut out, though. You'd think,
But yeah.
but let's go to the intro of this week's show with Bill Mercer.
Welcome to World Class Championship Wrestling from the famed Sportatorium, the most famous wrestling arena in the world, here in Dallas, Texas. I'm Bill Mercer. Great to have you with us. Well, there has been a breakup in that old gang of ours, gorgeous Jimmy Garvin and the Sunshine Girls. We're going to take a closer look at this confrontation that has put the family into a virtual explosion. At our main event, it's going to be a tag team event featuring Michael Hayes, the fabulous Freebird from Atlanta, his big buddy Terry Gordy with the Oriental spike that he developed on his trip to the Orient, against this team of the modern-day warrior Kerry Von Erich and his high-flying brother Kevin Von Erich in an exciting, old-fashioned country whipping match, and they're going to be wielding some big leather belts. All that and more on World Class Championship Wrestling, but first, a look for the first time at the Super D. Next, here on World Class Championship Wrestling.
I need to talk to World Class HR. I just had Bill Mercer sexually harass me, I think. He,
I,
he,
I, I,
he,
I, I didn't catch it.
he told me he wanted me to look at at the Super D. Oh,
Well,
Lord.
but George Weingroff was on the other show.
Yes, but, they don't talk about George Weingroff's penis. Only we talk about George Weingroff's penis.
Well,
Oh,
that's not our fault, is it? So the sunshines have exploded. Is that a is
yes.
that a supernova?
I mean, this gives me bad WCW flashbacks, but Too bad they didn't name Precious Midnight, because you have Sunshine and you
Ah,
have Midnight or Twilight. But that just reminds me of bad vampire movies. Yeah. Who
yeah.
knows? But we'll get to that later. But first, we have to look at the Super D number two. Seriously, the Super D number two. We couldn't just like lie and say it's Super D number one. It has to be Super D number two. And in his corner is General Skandor Akbar and the Super D number one. And he's taking on Mike Reed. And we start with some really, hopefully, really promising news. Mark Lawrence is out of rehab.
So glad for
You
him.
know, and hopefully he got back on the wagon here and is able to keep his head on the straight and narrow.
He still looks gaunt.
They announced that the Super Ds are the new American Tag Team Champions, which we discussed a few weeks ago. Um, they announced that the holiday Star Wars is coming up soon, and once again, they do not mention which holiday it is. Um,
We can only guess.
yep. Next week, we're informed that one of the Super Ds will take on Iceman King Parsons, which just sounds riveting.
Oh
And speaking
God.
of riveting, Mercer says that Mike Von Erich will be making his debut at the Holiday Star Wars against Buddy Roberts, apparently. I don't think that's the match because I could swear I saw the results of him beating Akbar, but maybe that was a different
Huh.
show that I saw that result from.
I mean, if I was gonna have somebody work their first match in an unnecessarily high profile way, I believe I would put the young man in there with Buddy Roberts.
I, I mean, I don't disagree because I mean Buddy Roberts will carry it a good match, but I figured that not Mercer. I'd love to see him versus Mercer. Him versus Akbar, I think would do the trick too because you're putting him in there in a match that's not really going to be a match, and you're just getting him in and out basically to get his feet wet. But oh well. Uh, by the way, the Super D number two won with a superplex, which Bill Mercer did not know the name of, and he at one point called it a suplexer.
Match went 4.5 minutes, and it felt a lot longer. Um, at one point, the Super D did a pump kick and fell. This okay, so listeners of the Oh My God cast, all six of them know that we have a different set of Super Destroyers working ECW in 1992, 93, and I gotta say, I much prefer those Super Destroyers.
Isn't it Chris Candido and was it Johnny Hotbody?
No, those were the Suicide Blondes.
Ah, who were the Super Ds?
I looked it up, and I don't think they're like not particularly notable. They were like just kind of long time Northeast independent guys whose names didn't even register with me.
Okay, okay, I'll go with that here. Um, but from here we get new developments in the Jimmy Garvin situation. From here we go to a match that he had in Fort Worth with John Mantell because of course it was with fucking John Mantell. They tried to do the WrestleMania 5 Rick Rude Ultimate Warrior finish, where Mantell tried to suplex Garvin into the ring. Precious hooked the leg, but Mantell can't even do that right because he rolled through and apparently won the TV title, which is one of those titles that we've mentioned is a thing, but has never been mentioned on the syndicated world class show before.
Yeah, I have
And
been watching the show for 6 months. This television show, and this is the first time I've ever heard the television championship mentioned.
yes, I know the Mongol had it at one point, and
Oh
I
well,
don't
very
know.
prestigious title.
Yes, I don't know the lineage of the TV title past the Mongol. And now John Mantell has it. And honestly, I was just happy he didn't win the American title.
I was scared for a minute.
Especially when they said the new champion. I'm like, what? Like, I nearly had a fucking heart attack.
Mantell wins because he fucks up losing. Outstanding.
Yeah. So Precious and Sunshine blamed each other for the loss. Garvin grabs Sunshine from behind, which let Precious slap her, and then he throws Sunshine down. She gets up and slapped Garvin before walking off. Garvin fired her, and maybe I know they had the Fort Worth TV, but this was really out of fucking nowhere.
Yeah, they just started to tease that something was coming, maybe like in the last week or two. And by the way, we were saying, or Arya was saying, Sunshine and Precious, just for the sake of clarity. At this point, they are still either the Sunshines or Sunshine and the Valet.
Yes. It's easier to just say, Precious, because everyone knows who the hell it is.
Yes.
All right. So from here, let's go to Eugene Levy, who's going to be introducing Sunshine at a press conference.
He's on. All right. Test. Can you hear it out there okay? Fine. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen of the press, for being in attendance today. Sunshine has asked me to be her personal representative. And I'd like to announce to you the fact that she has a statement for you. It'll be a prepared statement. She will read it, after which there will be no questioning at all. Once again, thanks for showing up, and without further ado, here's Sunshine.
Everybody knows by now what's happened here. Everybody knows how Jimmy, in that sorry excuse for a woman, dumped me. Well, Jimmy, you're not going to get away with it, you hear me? Because after everything I did for you, you think you can get away with that. Well, then you underestimate me. You come up to me with a gift, right? An assistant for me, supposed to be helping me. Well, I'll tell you one thing. You kind of, the only thing she's been good for is to get in between us. I'll tell you one thing. Of course, I left you. And I took everything. Well, I'll tell you one other thing. If you check around, look around a little bit, you're going to find out that I took the tapes. All those tapes I took for you through the years, because you asked me to do it. I took the medical history and everything. And if you want it back, don't come looking for me. Go to Chris Adams' house. Because that's why I sent him. Because I hope he can use them to beat you in an American title match that's coming up. And one other thing, I'm going to be there. And I'm not going to be by your side like I always was either. I'm going to be looking you straight in the eye. And I'm going to watch you go down on that mat and lose that night. As far as that tramp of yours is concerned, if she gets near me, there's going to be a war. As a matter of fact, you turned against me. I've done everything for you. You turned against me and went on her side. She cost you that match. You know she did. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't be the American champion, Jimmy. You probably wouldn't be anything. When that match comes up and you go down and you lose, and he's got you on that mat and holding you down, if I get close enough to you, I'm going to scratch your eyes out. And if that little tramp of yours comes near me, I'll pull every hair out of her head. And I'll pull her clothes off and expose her for what she is, and you know what she is to everybody. Jimmy, all this wouldn't be necessary. I don't know why you did this to me. You asked me to do things that I wouldn't dream of doing before. I turned against everything I believed in and everything I was brought up to be. You turned me into to something totally different because I loved you, Jimmy. I don't understand why.
Ladies and gentlemen of the press, under the circumstances, no, I'm terribly sorry. I'm sure under these circumstances that you can understand that we're going to have to call a halt to this press conference. She's emotionally charged up and disturbed about the situation. Please bear with us, but we will have to call it off at this time. Thank you.
Okay, so thanks to Eugene Levy there for introing and exiting the press conference there. Is Sunshine the worst promo of all time?
No. She was clearly not fully comfortable speaking in public, and this was too much to ask her to do the first time she'd ever done it. And just, I was very sympathetic to her because I have a similar, like when I write my notes for the podcast or anything else that I'm going to be, speaking on, I have to write down exactly what I intend to say, because if I don't, I don't necessarily read verbatim everything that I write, but I have to have it there, because if I don't and I just space on something and I need something, I fucking panic. And I could tell that there were points that she forgot the next thing she was supposed to say and had a little bit of a panic and just had to, she would visibly pause for a minute before kind of picking up and going back on. And I understand that. You only get past that with experience. And
So
but as far as what
Mhm.
as far as what this promo was, I thought that she came off authentic and sincere.
So what you're saying is I should not give you 4 uninterrupted minutes of podcasting to tell us your thoughts on, your this is a bad example. I should not give you 4 uninterrupted, unscripted minutes of podcasting is what you're saying.
No, you shouldn't.
Okay. All right. So in addition to what was not a very strong promo, we'll say that, in addition to Eugene Levy being there, and in case anyone is confused, no, that was not actually Eugene Levy, just somebody who looked remarkably a lot like him, I thought.
Did not even register that. So, like young Eugene Levy, current Eugene Levy?
Younger than now, but not 1983 Eugene Levy.
Like American Pie era Jim Levy?
A little later than that, but yeah, that's what we're looking at.
Terrific actor.
I should also note that Sunshine violated HIPAA. She stole Jimmy Garvin's medical records and sent them to Chris Adams. Do they not have HIPAA in England?
I'm sure they don't have the same thing, but I'm sure they have some kind of similar protection. But I mean, I don't know. He didn't violate HIPAA. She did.
I said she violated HIPAA. But, yeah. Oh, Lord. Yeah. And so eventually she got upset and left. And from here, Bill Mercer doxed Jim Garvin and found out where he was living. And let's go to that promo now.
Since Sunshine's press conference today, in which she said she had given the videotapes of Jimmy Garvin to Chris Adams, we've been trying to find that same Jimmy Garvin. He's not answered his phone, and we have managed, though, to locate the house in which he's living. So let's go up to the door, see if we can ask him about Sunshine, the tapes, and some more questions. Ah, this is open. Maybe he is at home. Our cord here. See if Jimmy Garvin's here. His car wasn't here, so I don't know if he's here or not. Jimmy Garvin? Hello, Jimmy Garvin, please. Hello, could we speak to Jimmy Garvin, please? I want to talk to Jimmy Garvin about the Sunshine.
Leave him alone.
Is he here?
Jimmy!
Is he? Well, he is here.
And we know that the new valet is here. Yeah, that answers a couple of questions. Jimmy Garvin.
Mercer, I can't believe you're at my house.
I want to ask you about Sunshine's press conference today and your breakup.
I am not
saying
nothing
thing?
to you, Mercer. I'm not saying nothing to you, Mercer. I'm not saying nothing to you, Mercer.
All right,
I said it once, I said it 1,000 times. I can't believe you're here, and I'm not saying nothing to you. I'm not giving no interview.
Sunshine gave the videotapes of you and the film to Chris Adams. She gave them to Chris Adams.
Stole the videotapes, Mercer. She
said
stole
she
them out
took
of my
them.
office.
She had a right
Get
to
this
them.
camera out of here, Mercer.
Right.
She stole the tapes. She stole everything out of my office, and she thinks she's going to get away with this. She's not going to get away with it.
She gave your medical records to Chris Adams. Does that in some way help out Chris Adams?
Nobody's going to find nothing out about my medical records.
Is there anything in there
She
that's...
better stay away from me, too.
Well,
She better stay away
Just take it easy, baby.
She better. I mean it.
Could you... Is there a chance for a reconciliation?
All right, now that I've learned how to press the unmute button. So after he docks Jimmy Garvin, Precious answers the door not wearing any pants, which was followed by Jimmy Garvin wearing a skirt. So it's possible that they changed clothes at some point. Although I'd hope that Jimmy Garvin and Precious don't wear the same size clothing.
I wouldn't think so. Wonder whose house this was.
It might have been Jimmy Garvin's house. I mean, all we ever saw was his backyard that time.
I mean, it's possible. I don't know. I assume that someone who wasn't planning on staying in a territory for the long haul would be living in a house that fancy. But I don't know. What do I know? But what I do know, what I just know with all my heart, is that after he got the door closed in his face, Bill Mercer walked around back to see if there was a pool.
Maybe the Freebirds are back in the pool, and he was gonna get a chance to take a dip.
I hope so. You know how Bill Mercer feels about pools.
But definitely. And I mean, no shame in his game, although it is November, so maybe taking a swim in Dallas in November isn't the smartest idea. Although we did talk last week about weather, and you pointed out that it's like, still 80 or 90 degrees in fucking Dallas right now. Because y'all are fucking weird.
Yeah, it's kind of I don't know. It's not August anymore, but it's not like the little bit of what passes for cold that we'll get in like January.
By the way, I know I cut it off before this. When Jimmy Garvin slammed the door in Mercer's face, Mercer apparently thought it was an accident, so he starts knocking on the door again. And shockingly, they didn't answer the second time.
But
that
Bill Mercer, he does his best.
What is with all this doxing on this show? Why did Bill Mercer have to look up where Jimmy Garvin lives? Because something tells me that Garvin did not want Bill Mercer to know where he lives.
I mean, the office had to have Garvin's address, right? You got to know where to send the check.
I mean, he may not have submitted the change of address form yet.
Well, suppose that's right. Is this now? So you would assume that Garvin had shared his previous dwelling with Sunshine. So is this the place that he moved to after he broke up with Sunshine?
I believe that's what we're to believe.
Okay, well that makes sense.
Yeah, and you would think Jimmy Garvin, though, would have some legal recourse that Sunshine stole his medical records. She stole his tapes. Oh, that's a little bit more iffy because we never knew whose video camera it actually belonged to. For all we know, it was Sunshine's video camera. But also, why would Chris Adams want a bunch of tapes that Sunshine filmed of other wrestlers? Because it was never she wasn't filming Jim Garvin matches. She was filming all of his potential opponents' matches.
Oh, I didn't even know that. That was the taping thing, I don't think was going on when I started.
They did it at the beginning when Garvin came in because they did a gimmick where Garvin didn't refuse to wrestle on TV, but Sunshine would come out every week and film people, and it led to him getting a title match at some title that David Von Erich held, and he won the championship. So, yes.
Well,
maybe she'll be able to tell Chris Adams, hey, this is how you can win a championship from a Von Erich.
Well, it's not going to be the last thing on the show that doesn't make any fucking sense.
By the way, you said that there were two things on this show that drove you mad. Have we passed any of them yet?
Let's talk about King Parsons versus Tonga John, shall we?
So I don't know if this is what made you raise an eyebrow, but they announced that Tonga John is from Samoa. So why is he not Samoan John?
I didn't even catch that. Oh my God, that's funny.
Yes. Tonga John, and we did talk about this a few weeks ago, but Tonga John is in fact the ball bearing, aka the Barbarian.
Okay. So, there's like one of the main rules in wrestling is fucking you never headbutt a Pacific Islander, but apparently you can if you're black, because that's another age-old wrestling trope. Oh my God. So last Monday was the New Japan Power Struggle show, and Great Okan and Hinari won the IWGP Tag Team Championship from Mikey Nichols and Shane Haste. And they did a spot. Mikey Nichols and Hinari just seemed determined to kill each other because last year in their G1 match, Nichols dropped Hinari right on his fucking head. In this match, Mikey Nichols headbutts Hinari so hard that he busted his own forehead open and like knocked himself loopy. It was fantastic.
Okay. Well, Parsons used a high drop kick here, and I thought it was a really nice drop kick. And I should note that during this match, they announced Hayes versus Carey at the Holiday Star Wars, where the loser can't wrestle in Texas for a year. Keep that in mind that they announced that during this match.
So this fucking drop kick. Parsons drop kicks Tonga John, and Tonga John takes a bump over the top rope. Please explain to me in excruciating detail why is throwing someone over the top rope an instant disqualification, but drop kicking someone and causing them to take the exact same fall is perfectly okay?
Because this wasn't intentional.
Was it not? When you drop kick somebody right next to the top rope, is that not considered intentional that they take a fucking bump? The stupidest goddamn rule.
Because it's only intentional, like if you're like, I don't know, you're standing by the ropes yourself and you heave-ho them over or whatever. This is more just, I did a drop kick, and by sheer coincidence, my opponent went over the top rope. And there's a lot more grievous examples of this, but yeah, it's.
If I grab you by the head and throw you at the direction of up near the top rope, and you just happen to take a bump over the top rope, that's not my fucking problem either, is it?
It depends on the intention of it. Are you, I don't know. I'm just trying to, get through this here because it's old school wrestling. Nothing is ever airtight, brother. No matter what you hear.
My intention is that whoever came up with the over the top rope DQ rule can go fuck themselves.
I'm yawning over here as Parsons sold a lot for Samoa John. It's almost like he knew that Samoa John He was going to be, well, not a huge star, but a star in wrestling. And then he
The
picked up the win with
problem.
the.
Go ahead. Go ahead and finish. Go ahead.
To say Parsons won with she calls that the rear view.
So you're right. This was a lot of Parsons selling, which meant it wasn't very good. He took a backdrop, and it looked so fucking awkward. Look, everything good about this match was Tonga John selling for Parsons' comeback.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, Parsons gets the big win going into his match next week against one of the Super Ds. I cannot remember who the hell it was at first.
You would assume it's number one, but no.
Yeah. Now, a few minutes ago, I mentioned that I thought Sunshine cut a terrible promo, and Trae defended her. Trae, are you about to defend what we're about to see?
No.
Maybe.
No.
All right, so let's go to Bill Mercer, who's sitting in the backstage area somewhere with Fritz Von Erich. Let's go to Mercer and Fritz right now.
Event here on World Class Championship Wrestling. Fritz Von Erich has come back to visit us, and another event that he's going to tell us about. So welcome back, Fritz. It's been a long time, too long, that we have had you here with us on World Class Championship Wrestling.
Yeah, William, I've been in the background now for some time, but that doesn't mean I'm not very much aware of what's been going on.
I'm sure of that.
The reason I've come back here today is I bought you a videotape to show you where this whole incident started recently at the auditorium in Fort Worth. As a result of this tape, my son Mike was involved. It goes on now till my son Kerry has agreed with this moron Michael Hayes that the winner of this upcoming match will stay in Texas. The loser will leave the state of Texas insofar as wrestling for 1 year.
For 1 whole year?
That's right. Don't tell me that Michael Hayes didn't have something in his mind.
I'm sure.
There's going to be a counter to whatever that was in his mind. A counter will be there, whether Mr. Hayes thinks so or not. So he's in for some real surprises. However, where it all began, let's take a look at this videotape that I bought over here.
All right.
And I'll take it from there.
All right, the videotape with Michael Hayes, Mike Von Erich, Kerry Von Erich, and the new jacket. Here it is.
You know, this is a very proud moment for the Von Erich family. The fourth Von Erich is getting ready to start wrestling. I have a box in my hand, something that was made for me, not out of thread, but out of love, from my mother. She gave it to me for my first wrestling match ever. It's a ring jacket that I've worn throughout the country and throughout the whole world. Every major city, it's always been lucky for me. I've never lost with this jacket. I'm giving it to you, Mike.
A very proud and sentimental moment for the Von Erichs as we witness this legend that is beginning, that promises to be Mike Von Erich. Now, nice ring jacket in hand, that must mean a lot to you. We understand from speaking with Father Fritz, the #1 legend, the man who bred everyone, that you are possibly the best yet. The best amateur records, you've been in training. What all has the previous months and years been for you?
Well, I don't really know about being the best amateur. My brothers are really good. I've been working out really hard. I've been around the United States working with the best professionals that there are around, and I've been to St. Louis and New York, and I've been up to North Dakota. They have a really good wrestling club up there, and I've had amateur wrestling.
We'll ignore him. Now, you must have tremendous teachers in your brothers.
Yes, my brothers really helped me a lot. You know, they've been working with me for over 2 years now for wrestling, and they're helping me a lot. I've learned a lot of their styles.
All right, I apologize for the distraction that has taken place, but in case you can't see, Michael Hayes has shown up at ringside. Now, we have already, we have seen enough of you for the time being. Your spot comes later. Why don't you exit? Well, looks like we've invited trouble.
Tell you something I'm tired of listening to about this sweet little jacket given to you by cute little Carrie, given to cute little Mike. Let me tell you something, I could really care less.
Well, he's ripping the jacket.
Now, they...
Well, as much as we hate to see this, all kinds of wild things have broken loose. Hayes has torn the beautiful ring jacket, and now Carrie's shown up, and they're out on the floor. This was supposed to be an interview, not a wrestling bout.
God damn it, I did it again. So yeah, it may supposed to be an interview, but thankfully for everyone's sake, it became a wrestling match. As Fritz informs us about, he breaks the news that was already broken 5 minutes ago that the holiday Star Wars main event is Carrie versus Hayes, where the loser can't wrestle in Texas for a year, and then shows us a clip of a recent occurrence in Fort Worth, where they're getting ready for Mike Von Erich's big debut, and Carrie gave him his robe that he wore for his first few matches that apparently Carrie never lost while wearing, which makes you wonder why he didn't keep wearing said robe if he never lost while wearing it.
Carrie
Mhm.
Carrie was fucked up.
Who was fucked up?
Carrie.
Oh yeah, definitely. But what else is new? So he leaves Mike to his own to cut a promo in the ring, which bad idea, but whatever at this point. And Mike starts telling us that he's been to where he's been training all over where the good wrestlers are in St. Louis and New York and the really good wrestling club in North Dakota.
Okay, I need to know more about the North Dakota Wrestling Club.
Do you think he meant, Minnesota with the AWA maybe?
Did he mean North Carolina? And just that would make more sense, actually.
Oh Lord, I can't even, where the hell did North Dakota come from?
So is
I'm
this
sure
like
there's been.
is this like legitimately going to be Mike's first match?
I mean, I'm pretty sure it is, because I thought I looked it up a few weeks ago.
If you are Fritz Von Erich, you have contacts all over the United States. You have contacts in Japan. Send the kid somewhere and let him learn how to work before you put him on your fucking TV.
And he was so fucking skinny too. And I mean,
Yeah.
I know Carrie's the bodybuilder, so it's him standing next to Carrie is really a bad comparison. But they couldn't have put him in with anybody because he was small and skinny, and it's clear that he really does not want to be wrestling. And he, as I'm sure we all know by now, he pretty much got forced into it by Daddy. And like I said last week or the week before, I'm a little surprised because I thought he began wrestling due to David's death. But no, he's starting obviously a little bit before that.
Yeah.
And we're going to see him because he doesn't have the toxic shock thing. I don't think that's till 85. So he's going to be a big part of this show for 2 years.
Is he the first to do the Von Erich thing?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, it was him and Chris both, right?
Yeah, and Kerry, of course.
And Kerry, yeah, obviously, but yeah. Mike and Chris in particular, you gotta feel a lot of sympathy for.
So I did look it up. Now, cage match may be missing a match or two. I can only go by what this says. But Mike Von Erich's first listed match is Thanksgiving Star Wars defeating General Skandor Akbar.
Huh. Maybe Buddy was injured or something.
Who knows? Because he does wrestle Buddy a few nights later in San Antonio.
When it's a free bird isn't there, I assume that they're either injured or in Japan or in jail.
Well, I'm not sure what one because Buddy Roberts is on this show, and you'll never guess who he loses to.
Hold on, Johnny Mantell.
Nope, it's our good friend Mac.
Max? Oh
Yep.
my God, that. I need to see that. I need to see what Buddy Roberts can do with Max.
Oh, lordy, lordy, lordy. So this ended up in a giant brawl. And the funny thing is, Michael Hayes confronts him face to face, grabs the robe, and rips it up. And Mike does nothing until Hayes turns around. And then Mike attacks him like a coward.
And then Kerry and Mike, the baby faces, beat up Michael Hayes 2-on-1. Buddy Roberts, the heel, tried to make the save. Mike drop kicked him out of the ring. And that was so this is
my favorite part was Mike tried to help Kerry beat up Hayes, and Kerry shoved him away.
Kerry fucking shoved Hayes and was beating his ass, and Mike was just standing there trying to stomp on Hayes while Kerry beat his ass.
And actually, that's not even my real favorite part. The real favorite part was during the promo when Hayes comes out. Mark Lawrence puts one hand on his hip and gets really angry. Like he's the disappointed mother of the world-class roster here. Hand on hip, disappointment.
He's a very hand-on-hip kind of guy, isn't he?
Yeah. Finally, Buddy dragged Hayes to safety. But let's go to the last thing that I see on the show, which is Mercer continuing the interview with Fritz. And Fritz has a big announcement for a big match coming up, the Holiday Star Wars.
Well, we can certainly see how Michael Hayes put in jeopardy the future of Mike Von Erich, Kerry Von Erich, and himself in the wrestling situation.
I think you see that old Mike there is out of the same mold, my son.
Oh,
Mike.
yes, I think you see that.
Mike, all right. Mike did a great job considering what happened out there. Because of what you just saw right there, this boy Michael Hayes had the gall to make a challenge to Kerry to have a match. And the loser would be to leave Texas for 1 year.
Not to wrestle here.
Not to wrestle here, that's right. Not to wrestle. Sure, certainly still live here because this is Kerry's home here. This is, for Michael Hayes to make a challenge like that. And Bill, just to refresh your memory, I didn't retire and go to Timbuktu.
I know.
I've been right there watching this television week after week. I've seen everything that's happened here since the Freebirds came in. Right from the time that this boy Terry Gordy slammed that steel cage on Kerry's head.
Right.
And caused a concussion there. It started with that and it's up to this point right now where he had the goal, this Michael Hayes, to belt my son Mike, my 19-year-old, the way he did. Do you think that I can sit by and ignore things like this? Now then, my son Kerry, in the most impetuous situation because of the challenge that Michael Hayes made. Kerry wanted him so badly, he says, hey, whatever you want. He just wanted him in that ring is what it boiled down to. But
so what are all the stipulations?
In essence, right now, this match will take place on the Holiday Star Wars. The match will be between Kerry Von Erich and Michael Hayes, all Mike's stipulations he thinks up to a couple of points. There's got to be a winner. The loser is to leave Texas and not wrestle here again for 1 year. The key, though, is there must be a winner. Don't tell me that Michael Hayes doesn't have a whole bunch in the back of his mind. For the simple reason, he knows, and everybody that's ever seen him wrestle knows, that Kerry Von Erich can beat Michael Hayes with one hand tied behind him in a straight wrestling match. Michael Hayes has something up his sleeve, no question about that. So just, Mr. Hayes, I know that you're going to listen to every word I'm saying, so I just want you to very carefully hear this. That is, I will be in that building. Any counter move that you have in mind, I'll be the counter to the counter. I've sat back in the background long enough, mister, and now I'm out in front. If Kerry has to leave the state as far as wrestling goes, it won't be because I didn't do my job there. So whatever you have in mind, you better have a second thought at it. Plus the fact my son Mike is making his debut for the first time. Naturally, his mother and I would be there for that regardless. But I'll be there primarily to make sure that Kerry gets a fair shot at putting Michael Hayes out of the state of Texas as far as wrestling goes for 1 full year.
Well, I can see and certainly understand why you're concerned and why you'll be there. There's Terry Gordy, there's Buddy Roberts for a couple of reasons. So that's an interesting situation. That's the big event. Michael.
All right. So, hey, remember to make sure not to be on mute this time. So Fritz broke the news here for the third time in the last 20 minutes that at Thanksgiving Star Wars, it's Kerry Von Erich versus Michael Hayes, where the loser leaves Texas wrestling for 1 year. Can you believe about this huge match?
So the person that loses this match, they cannot go to Houston and work for Paul Bosch or go to San Antonio and work for Joe Blanchard?
Correct. They're not allowed to wrestle in Texas at all for 1 year.
I wonder how they would enforce that. Texas does not have a state athletic commission, I don't believe.
No, they did not, and I don't know if they still don't, but they didn't for the longest time. Fritz also tells us that Mike is going to make his debut for the first time, and I'm curious how many times Mike is going to make his debut that night.
Yeah. Fritz is horrified at the idea that Kerry might not be able to wrestle in Texas for a year.
Because, you know, what else can he do, apparently, if he can't wrestle on TV in Texas?
I mean, he could, it's, what, 150 miles to Shreveport? I'm sure he could get some work.
I'm sure Watts could throw him a bone here.
But,
you know, at least
but he could work New Orleans, he could work Baton Rouge, he could work Oak City and Tulsa, could not work Houston.
Yep. You know, I mean, that's a big payday, you know, that he wouldn't be able to take part in.
I know. This is a lot of stakes to this match.
Yeah. Well, do you want to recap our dark match main event, or at least my dark match main event?
The main event on this show was Kevin and Kerry Von Erich against Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy in a country whipping match. Everyone had a big fucking leather strap that they were allowed to hit each other with. They are allowed to beat each other violently with a big heavy leather strap. Keep that in mind.
It's not only
Hayes
encouraged,
and Gordy,
it's allowed.
Hayes and Gordy were smart enough to wear shirts. The Von Erichs were not, but unfortunately, the Von Erichs were jealous and immediately ripped the Freebird shirts off. The heat for these Von Erichs and Freebirds matches has to be seen to be believed. Like, these shows are worth watching just to give you perspective on what it means to be over. The reactions that the Von Erichs, especially Kerry, were getting in Dallas in 1983 are up there with, like, Misawa in Tokyo in the early 90s, or fucking Steve Austin everywhere in 98, 99. This crowd just got louder and louder every time a Von Erich whipped a Freebird. And then The Freebirds got disqualified for throwing Kevin over the fucking top rope in a match where guys have been whipping each other violently with leather straps for 6 minutes.
Are you serious? That was the finish?
That was the finish. And of course, as always, the Von Erichs made their own comeback and stood tall in the end.
Would it have been better or worse had they been disqualified for kicking too much ass?
I don't know. I don't know anymore. I don't fucking know.
We'll talk about kicking too much ass on Thursday. But so yeah, how did Kerry get busted wide open? Anything interesting there?
I didn't even know he was busted open until it went to the promo, so I don't know.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right. So that does it for World Class.
Wait a minute. So there was one more segment at the very end, about a minute, where Bill Mercer was at ringside with Kerry and Kevin, and Kerry spoke for a few seconds, and he said, 20 words. You could tell Kerry was fucked up again.
Ain't that fun?
Yeah.
So yeah, that does it for World Class. I'll be honest. Like before I watched the show, there was part of me that wanted to say to you, should we consider ending the World Class reviews? Because it's just getting repetitive and redundant to watch, the Freebirds and the Von Erichs every single fucking week. But then it's like this week's show, we had the Jimmy Garvin Precious Sunshine thing. We have a new tag team in the Super D's who theoretically are gonna, because guess what? The Freebirds have to wrestle somebody. Or not the Freebirds or the Von Erichs have to wrestle somebody when the other group leaves town soon.
Yeah. I think we at least got to go to the Parade of Champions and then reevaluate if that's going to be the season finale or not.
Yeah. Where we could end believing that Kerry Von Erich never lost the NWA World Title.
Unless we just happen to unless we happen to drop World Class and pick up All Japan TV, then we would know.
Well, Thanksgiving is coming up, and Kerry Von Erich is going to wrestle Michael Hayes, the loser leaving Texas for a year. It's also the day that Ric Flair wins the world title, and Fritz watches it on pay-per-view, and then walks outside and tells Kerry it's time to get into pro wrestling.
I expect some kind of fuckery that involved with that temporal ham radio that they used to listen to our show. Something got knocked awry in the timeline.
Of all the fuck ups in that movie, that is my favorite fuck up.
I gotta watch it. Maybe one of the weeks at the end of the year that we don't have a show, maybe we can watch the Iron Claw.
Say if you go back 52 episodes, I reviewed the Iron Claw at the end of last year.
Oh, okay.
I like that you and Cindy are both like, I'm trying to give us all 2 weeks off the end of the year, and you and Cindy are both, hey, what if we did this, and this? Like, leave me alone.
We just both enjoy your company so much.
By the way, before we go, I want to bring something up here. Jim Cornette is a national treasure, or was a national treasure anyway, and he should be in every Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. And his opinions, for the most part, should be taken seriously. He's a wrestling legend, and you should take what he says completely seriously. With that said, I was listening to the Ohio Valley Wrestling Omnibus that him and the great Brian Last did, where basically covered most of Jim Cornette's run booking Ohio Valley Wrestling. And he talked about how he had a female referee named Donna Daring, and she had double D breasts, and that's basically the whole gimmick was her initials were double D and she had double D breasts. So I'm like, I got to look this woman up to see, how do you have a referee hiding the fact that she has a very large chest? And I look it up and it's like, this fucking woman, first of all, she's 6 feet tall. Secondly, it's like she's wearing like a half shirt, tank top gimmick with her breasts falling out and wearing shorts. I'm like, really? Like, all the problems he has with fucking believability and all this shit. And for years, that was one of his referees on TV.
I mean, there's no rule against a referee having big tits.
I mean, not at all, but like she should be. I'm sorry, if we're gonna take this seriously that she's really the referee, she should be dressed like the referees. And I gotta be honest, I didn't watch a whole lot of OVW. It's one of those things I kind of wish I could find nowadays. But apparently nobody on the planet has those tapes still. But it's like, I'm gonna bet the other OVW referees did not wear, cut off half shirts, show off their breasts.
This world class show might be more palatable if Bronco Lubick got some titties.
Oh my God. I can't believe you said that. Can we prove that he doesn't? I mean, he's not fat, but he's also not skinny.
No. Well, if you want to hear more about the greatness of Jim Cornette, join us on Thursday.
Oh my God, yes. Yes. And did you know that the real reason pregnant women can't go on carnival rides is because the baby is not tall enough?
Don't think that's scientifically accurate, but yeah, let's go with that.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week's show. Do you want to plug the Oh My God cast before we go?
OhMyGodcast.com. I promise we will eventually review TWA Autumn Armageddon 1990.
And at some point, they'll probably also go back to reviewing ECW shows.
Yeah, I have to get home and look at everything. I would assume that we will be back with a regular show next week, I think.
Fingers crossed, tap on wood. Well,
Indeed.
That's going to do it from our regular show. But, thank you to everyone for listening. I hope you all enjoyed it. And we'll talk to you again in 7 days.
Bye.